Revenge Part 2. Tom Bower, the legendary royal author, is sharpening his quill for a new edition of his book set to reveal huge secrets inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's marriage.
All right, so Revenge was released in July of 2022. Since then, based on polling and media coverage, you described the trajectory of Harry and Meghan's reputations professionally and personally. It feels like they've taken quite a bit of a dive.
Tom Bower, who has been working on the sequel to Revenge for some time, has secured a big money serialization deal with Rupert Murdoch's News UK to The Sun newspaper too.
Is Meghan about to walk away from Harry? Tom Bower has been watching this marriage with a very close eye, and what he may have uncovered for Revenge 2 could be the most explosive material he has ever put on paper. You need to hear this.
The royal family would not be coming to Harry's rescue. They would not be funding a divorce to any extent. And they, at this point, wouldn't really care what Meghan tried to say or do, because Meghan has so discredited herself as a liar, a cheat, and a fool.
Tom Bower has now confirmed to the Daily Mirror that he already has major new material for a second book, and that alone is raising eyebrows. But what he said about the first book is just as revealing. When Revenge first came out, a lot of people pushed back hard. Some said it was too harsh, others claimed parts were difficult to believe. But now Tom Bower is making a bold point. More people have started coming around to what he uncovered back then. And according to him, those same people are going to be even more drawn in by what he has discovered since. He called Harry and Meghan's story unprecedented, his exact word. And coming from someone who has spent decades digging into major public figures, that carries weight.
Not been a quiet week on the royal front, but I will be bringing you news on all that royal news that has an impact on the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Sources told People magazine that Prince Harry is getting frustrated with people comparing him to his uncle Andrew. People magazine, by the way, this is Harry and Meghan's favorite outlet. I'm sure you're familiar with that because I remind you every time we have a People magazine story.
This is not someone known for tossing around dramatic labels for attention. So when Tom Bower says this story is unprecedented, it means something serious may be unfolding. He also said the battle for survival and the fight for revenge is increasing week by week. That is a striking claim, because it suggests whatever he has been tracking, whatever sources may be speaking, the situation is not cooling off. It may be getting even more intense. Things do not appear to be settling down at all. If anything, they seem more complicated, more layered, and possibly more volatile.
I think personally, they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of in the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
Hang on a minute. Every single thing he has written about Meghan and Harry has been a work of fiction.
And that matters when you understand how Tom Bower works. His background is not casual celebrity gossip. It is serious investigation. Before journalism, he trained as a barrister, and that shaped how he operates. Everything he writes is legally checked, carefully sourced, and heavily scrutinized. That gives his claims a different kind of weight. He was even physically at the Invictus Games doing research for the first book. He did not stay at a distance, he went right into the middle of it, and even when confronted by Sussex supporters while he was there, he kept going. He did not back off, and that only adds more intrigue to what he may be preparing next. So when Tom Bower says he has new material, this is not being framed as gossip or random rumour.
In addition to his London court wrangle, Meghan was also notably absent, of course, from the King's coronation, MIA, during the promotion of his awful tell-all memoir, Spare. So, Tom, what are you hearing about this? Why is Meghan backing away?
This is someone known for building what he presents as a serious, tightly sourced case. And that is why this latest development is turning heads. But here is what may be the most telling part of this whole moment. At the exact same time, Tom Bower steps forward saying, there is even more to this story. Omid Scobie, long seen as Meghan's biggest media ally, has announced he is stepping away from writing about Harry and Meghan completely. That timing is hard to ignore. Scobie is moving into fiction while Tom Bower is moving deeper into investigation. One appears to be retreating, the other pressing forward. And that contrast says a lot about where the momentum may be shifting right now.
Also extend to the Sun newspaper too, to reveal the first bombshells from his book, which is expected to further damage the Madam of Montecito.
It raises serious questions. Now this is where things get even more interesting, because Tom Bower has spent years documenting what he describes as a very specific pattern in Meghan's behaviour. And once you notice the pattern he argues exists, it is difficult not to keep seeing it. He points to Meghan's father, now completely cut off from her life, despite the complicated history surrounding that relationship. Then there is her first husband, Trevor Engelson, a relationship that ended as her career began rising with Suits. That has often been part of the discussion. Then there is the Canadian boyfriend before Harry, a relationship critics have pointed to when talking about timing and ambition.
Does she envisage a divorce between Harry and Meghan Markle? If so, how does she think it will play out, and how much is she likely to get? I hear she wants ridiculous amounts, which is ridiculous for the son of a spare. Also, how does she see the children's, and she's put the children's in inverted commas, time being split between them, and how does she think their lives will be if they stay with Meghan Markle? Will Harry want them to know about their royal ancestry?
And then Omid Scobie, often described as an unofficial spokesperson, who wrote 2 books many believed echoed her perspective. But now, with Endgame struggling and the Sussex brand facing scrutiny, even that alliance appears changed. That gets attention, and it does not stop there. Staff, advisors, people close to the royal family and beyond, stories of relationships fading, allies going quiet, and key figures falling away have surfaced again and again.
Harry must be nuts. This is one of the text messages his friends were sending around to each other after Meghan's first introduction to Harry's friends in 2017 during a shooty weekend at Sandringham.
And so he became hypersensitive and blamed the media for the crashes of his relationships, never thinking that they could have something to do with himself. So he's a very complicated, depressed, unintelligent man who is seeking a role and has got really nobody on whom he could rely, which is in the end where Meghan stepped in. I mean, a needy man met a woman who could help him with his needs.
Tom Bower laid out this pattern in Revenge. His argument was that Meghan moves toward what serves her interests and moves away from what no longer does. And if that pattern is what he believes is continuing now, then what he may reveal next could be explosive. And according to this argument, once someone has served their purpose, the relationship ends. That is why many people are now asking a much bigger question. Has Harry reached that point? And reports suggest this is exactly the kind of question Tom Bower's new book may tackle head-on.
But I do think that when you're mocked so publicly as they've been, their value begins to nosedive pretty quickly. And I don't think they're finding any more sources of income.
Let me take you through what Tom Bower has revealed. He's told the Daily Mirror, I've got a lot of new material already, and I think the whole world wants new insights. It's an amazing story. It's an eye-wateringly unique story because it's unprecedented. This is such a famous couple who are fighting for themselves all the time. They are relentless and restless, and that's what makes it so interesting.
Because the signs people keep pointing to are difficult to ignore. Meghan has appeared increasingly absent during some of Harry's most public and damaging moments. The court appearances, the PR setbacks, the brutal headlines, the controversies that kept growing. Many noticed she was not visibly by his side through much of it. That has fueled speculation. Critics point out she has not publicly stepped in to help manage those storms, nor offered much visible support while Harry has faced intense scrutiny.
Tom Bower, he is a very thorough journalist. He has worked on a huge number of bombshell books about a huge number of major personalities. He does his research. He's been at the Invictus Games. He's been following Harry and Meghan around. I know for the first book, Revenge, and I'm very happy to say this, I spoke to him in some detail about what I knew. And I think that the book provided a lot of insight, actually, into the truth about Meghan Markle. Of course, we have been reporting the truth of these things for a long time too. But Harry and Meghan are going to be petrified about the idea of Tom Bower snooping back into their married life, right? Just at the time that odd little bloke, Omid Scobie, who for many years has been the #1 propagandist for the Sussexes, has announced that he's quitting writing Meghan hagiographies altogether. No more is he going to stand up for this woman. Instead, he's writing a fictitious.
And to people who believe they have seen a pattern in other relationships tied to her past, that absence feels familiar. That is where the conversation gets explosive. Tom Bower has spoken directly about what he sees as a deeper crisis at the centre of this marriage, and his explanation is blunt. He argues Meghan's goal is to become a billionaire celebrity, that this is the ambition driving everything, a huge claim, and he suggests every major decision runs through that lens. Then comes the clash he says sits at the heart of it all. According to Bower, Harry does not understand that world at all.
They have both been wounded. And what's fascinating about them is they don't stop fighting back. And the fight back is just as important as their survival. This battle for survival and the fight for revenge is increasing by the week. A lot of people were skeptical of the first book and couldn't quite believe it. Now more are converted to what I discovered then, and they'll be fascinated by what I've discovered now. So much has changed over the last 3 years, and so many new things have come out about them.
What happened to Meghan's mother? I mean, nobody's really talking about that. Meghan lived with her father most of her teenage years. And I'm just wondering, I thought Tom would do it in his last book, but he didn't. So that's obviously a very tricky one. But I hope that this one will come out with that, because I think it's a very, very important thing for us to know, because I think it made Meghan or it didn't make Meghan.
He argues Harry has never had to seriously worry about money, never had to chase opportunity, never faced financial insecurity or career humiliation the way ordinary people do. He grew up far removed from that pressure, and Bower contrasts that with Meghan's background. He argues she spent years working hard, trying to break through, feeling underestimated, and developing a powerful hunger for status and financial security. In his view, that ambition is intense and deeply rooted, and this is where he suggests the tension grows. Because if one person is driven by relentless ambition and the other does not fully relate to that mindset, what happens when those worlds collide?
Look back at it, Dan, because you've got to look at what my book revealed about her. She is a scheming woman.
Revenge.
She's always been plotting. She's always been looking how she can use people for her own benefit.
Well, that's why I wonder if she wants Harry to be weak, you see.
But it's not that she wants him to be weak. She probably no longer sees his purpose. She doesn't see what he can still do for her, because he's done everything. He's given her the title. He's given her fame. What is the next step? And the terrible tragedy, which is now unfolding, is she dumped her father, she dumped her first husband, she dumped the boyfriend in Canada, she dumps people who aren't in any use to her. Is she going to dump Harry now? Is what we're seeing now the slow motion of Meghan Part 9 as she attempts the next step in her extraordinary career?
That is the conflict Bower appears to be pointing toward, and if his new material goes deeper into that, it could cause serious shockwaves. So you have what looks like two people under the same roof pulling in completely different directions, and that may be where the real tension starts. On one side, Meghan is portrayed as chasing a billion-dollar celebrity empire. On the other, Harry is reportedly still focused on something much more personal, reconciliation with his family. And that detail stands out in a huge way. That is where, according to this view, Harry's mind still is. He wants relationships repaired. He wants some version of the old life restored. He may still be holding on to the idea that things with his family can somehow be fixed.
He is honestly reminding me of Michael Jackson these days. He really is. Very, very odd. Very odd what he's trying to do with his looks, given that he claims to be proudly mixed race, and yet he seems to be trying to adjust his appearance to appear more like a white man. Very odd man. And I've got some concerns actually about what's going on with him, Angela, up there, because, he lies about his age. and all of that type of stuff. So you can't believe a word that this guy says. But rather than write a new chapter in his Harry and Meghan trilogy, sort of like, oh, didn't they triumph in Hollywood? Didn't this all work out? He's walked away, Angela, because he knows that's just not a palatable story. His last book was a disastrous flop, Endgame, barely sold any copies. Yeah, he got media attention.
But Tom Bower is incredibly direct about this. He says there is zero chance of reconciliation. That is a dramatic claim. According to Bower, the anger from William and Kate has not softened, has not faded, and is not something time will simply heal. He describes it as irreconcilable. So if Harry is still hoping for something that no longer exists, while Meghan is pursuing something Harry may not be able to deliver, that points to two very different futures colliding. They are not on the same page. They may not even be in the same chapter. And while all this is said to be happening behind closed doors, the public story has been adding pressure all on its own, because the business ventures have faced very visible struggles, and people have noticed. Take the candles everyone talked about, luxury candles arriving without wicks. That exploded across social media. People could not stop reacting. Then came the jam launch, which got a mixed and often critical reception. And critics say there has been a pattern. Projects announced with huge fanfare, only to quietly fade away.
Hasn't got the status she craves. She hasn't got the pulling power. He's stuck in California, clinging onto his royal status as she is. Harry's thinking is of reconciliation. That's just totally unrealistic. There is zero chance of reconciliation because there is irreconcilable anger on the part of William and Kate.
He hasn't really appeared in person and talked since the whole year. I mean, that is what's extraordinary. It's Silent Meghan now, having set him up. But I took from those pictures of him in San Diego this week, here's a man who, when he was in London, was really angry. And I think his court appearance, as disastrous as it was, he doesn't realise how bad it was. There was a cathartic moment.
The podcast ending only fueled that conversation even more. And this is not framed as coming only from critics. Tina Brown, who was supportive of Meghan in earlier years and is a highly respected media voice, gave a very candid interview that grabbed attention. She said Meghan seems panicked in her business approach. That word hit hard. Brown argued there is a pattern of jumping quickly to the next thing before the current one has time to grow. And if that criticism is gaining traction while personal pressures are also building, you can see why people believe the pressure around this story may be intensifying fast.
He added, they have a crisis. Meghan wants to be a billionaire celebrity, and Harry doesn't understand that world other than understanding that Meghan wants to be famous. He's spent his whole life never having a penny in his pocket. He's never regularly travelled on the tube, never had to worry about having a car or a job. So he doesn't understand where she's coming from, which is that she worked phenomenally hard, struggled hard, and was constantly humiliated and wants the security of finance and status.
Tina Brown's argument was striking. She suggested Meghan wants to become an instant Beyoncé, an instant Michelle Obama, without the long years of steady work those women put in to build that level of influence. And her point was simple. There are no shortcuts to that. You cannot rush that kind of legacy. What makes that even more interesting is how closely that lines up with what Tom Bower identified years ago. In Revenge, he argued Meghan struggles with taking advice, not because the advice lacks value, but because she wants things done her way.
I think it's going to be explosive because Meghan Markle can't control this narrative. Tom Bower is incredibly well respected. And at the end of the day, we want the truth, and we can't get the truth from the Royal Rota. We can't get the truth from Meghan Markle or Prince Harry. They are pathological liars. They cherry pick what they want to believe or what they want us to believe.
I just don't know, because it's so heartless to treat this fellow like this. And I can't see how she could really treat him so appallingly, the father of her children. But her absence from everything is by now seeming pretty suspicious. Her silence since Christmas, really, before Christmas, is really pretty odd. And there's got to be a reason. My suspicion is that she's plotting. I've always said she's going to do something big. We've been saying that now for weeks, so we've still got to wait.
And then Tina Brown came out saying something remarkably similar. That got attention. Brown suggested people who tried to advise her often came away feeling there was no point because the advice would not be acted on. And when very different voices start making similar observations, people notice. That is where this starts feeling bigger than ordinary criticism. But here is the detail Tom Bower added that really stands out. He argues Harry is now essentially Meghan's main advisor, while Harry himself takes advice mainly from Meghan. Think about that dynamic. Two people relying heavily on each other while appearing to shut out outside guidance. That creates a bubble.
And Harry is just, I think, out of his depth. He has no idea anymore what he's being played at. He has no idea the game that he's actually engaged in. And it can only end in tragedy.
You guys, there's no wick. Wait, producer Kylie, there's no wick, right? Am I crazy? Where's the thing that I light? This has to be a joke. No, I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. You guys, this isn't a stunt. There's literally nothing to light in here. No, it's not pasted down. My producer's in my ear. Is it pasted down? No, it's not pasted down. Zoom in. There's literally nothing. There's nothing to light on the candle. This is like Meghan Markle's career. Failure to launch. Oh my God. Wait, this is not a joke. I ordered Meghan Markle's candle. There's nothing to light. I literally want a refund. Meghan Markle, send me a frickin' refund. So I paid, how much did I pay for this? $64.
And critics say the results of decisions made inside that bubble may be playing out in public. And then comes the huge question Bower seems to be building toward for Revenge 2. If the doors Harry's name and title once opened begin closing, and some believe there are already signs of that, what does the Empire look like then? That is a serious question. Now come back to Omid Scobie, because this deserves attention all on its own. For years he was seen as one of the biggest media voices in Harry and Meghan's corner. He co-wrote Finding Freedom, defended them repeatedly, pushed their narrative in interviews and appeared closely connected to their camp.
Brown, in just one moment, she's made a whole load of fascinating new claims, highly respected royal author too.
And Meghan is so determined. She's going back 5 years now, and she wants to get her own back. And it's going to be very difficult for her, but she's going to fight and fight and fight. And Harry is doing that as well. But he's made so many errors that I don't think he'll stand a chance.
That was a major role. Then came Endgame, which generated headlines, some for the wrong reasons, but did not become the triumph many expected. And now, instead of writing a third book or telling some uplifting next chapter about building something meaningful, he is stepping away from writing about them altogether. He is simply not doing it. And for many watching this story, that silence may speak louder than anything. He is writing fiction now, a made-up story about the royal family. And even that came with drama. When the Daily Mail reported his deal was worth 6 figures, he jumped on social media to correct it, saying it was 7 figures, not 6.
Yes, absolutely. There's a brilliant announcement by Tom about what he's going to say and what he's going to reveal. I mean, he's a brilliant writer, but he's also a brilliant advertising himself, and making you to want it and get it sorted before it's even anybody else can see it, because it's not quite ready. I mean, he's really brilliant at that. I am very interested in all these things that he's going to show us, but also I want to know, really.
That was a surprising thing to publicly emphasize, and people noticed. But the bigger story is what this moment may represent, because this connects right back to that drop pattern people keep discussing. Scobie is not just stepping back professionally. Critics say the relationship between Scobie and Meghan appears to have cooled as well, and that has sparked plenty of speculation. Some are asking, was he useful until he was not? Sound familiar? That is why Tom Bower stepping forward at the same moment Scobie steps back feels so striking. For some, it looks like a changing of the guard in who may shape the next chapter of this story. One voice exits as another moves in harder than ever. That contrast is hard to ignore. Now, the most recent controversy that has really stirred debate is Harry and Meghan's trip to Jordan. This became a huge talking point. They travelled to the Middle East during a period of rising tensions in the region.
The truth about the babies, the 2 children that we don't really know. So I think there's an awful lot to find out, and I hope that Tom does cover that, as well as them being in a crisis, which actually we can understand immediately, because their lives are dreadful, really. When you've got that revenge that you hang on to, no matter what else you do.
Something widely reported at the time, and the reaction was intense. And the reason it hit so hard was the security argument, because Harry has spent years in legal battles arguing he cannot safely travel in the United Kingdom without government-funded security. That has been central to his public case. It has been one of his biggest arguments. So when he and Meghan travelled to Jordan during a tense regional moment, critics immediately pointed to what they saw as an inconsistency. They asked how security is framed as an overwhelming concern in one context, but appears handled differently in another. That question exploded into controversy, and that is why this trip became more than just another headline. For some observers, it fed a bigger narrative about contradictions, pressure, and credibility. And when you put that beside everything Tom Bower is reportedly building toward, it starts to look like even more material for an explosive next chapter. And people online and in the press were anything but quiet about it.
Didn't sell anything, didn't sell anywhere near as much as one of your books, for example. And now he's given up on writing about the truth. He's actually going to be writing a fictitious tale of a handsome prince within the royal family. And how cringe is this, Angela? When the Daily Mail wrote a puff piece about this, talking about how he'd signed a 6-figure deal for this book, the guy actually posted on X saying it was actually 7, but who's counting? And I thought, you are so crass, you are so tacky, you're just like Meghan Markle. Nothing is about the truth, nothing is about doing good work, nothing is about credibility, it's all about the moolah.
The backlash was loud, and reports say it even stirred diplomatic tension. Once again, during much of that fallout, Meghan kept a very low profile, while Harry appeared to take the bulk of the criticism alone. That caught attention. Tom Bower has described them as relentless and restless, always moving, always launching something, never staying still. And this trip felt like a perfect example of what he means. That instinct to stay visible and keep pushing forward, even when the timing looks questionable from the outside, has become a major talking point. And while all of that unfolds, look at what is happening on the other side. Prince William has just stepped into what many are calling the biggest diplomatic moment of his life so far.
Angela, but it's interesting, isn't it, when you think Tom Bower's writing this new book, Scobie is not even trying to write a new book about Harry and Meghan because he knows it's just so bad.
Yes, I think that he is also got quite a lot of feeling of revenge, because he was quite close to Meghan, wasn't he, for quite a long time, and they were near, and he would go and see her a lot and talk about it, and he was her voice.
He is representing King Charles at the funeral of Pope Francis, a moment carrying enormous global attention. That is huge. King Charles had visited the Pope just weeks before his passing, making that meeting feel even more meaningful in hindsight. But with the King managing ongoing treatment, William is now stepping forward on behalf of the Crown. World leaders, heads of state, cameras from around the world, and William is walking into that room calm, prepared, and carrying enormous responsibility. It is a defining moment, and by many accounts he is handling it exactly as people would want from a future king.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were probably going to get their best news cycle in years, because we know deep down they want to bring down the British royal family. Instead, in the midst of the biggest royal crisis in a century, these two grifters and fake have decided this is the moment to embark on a new fake royal tour, this time of the Middle East, where she's literally trying to claim she's the queen of the desert in Jordan.
Which makes the contrast with Harry's situation even harder to miss. It almost speaks for itself. Tom Bower's argument has long been that Harry is clinging to a royal identity while that identity fades around him. And every time William steps up, and he keeps stepping up, that contrast gets sharper. What Harry walked away from appears clearer to many observers with every passing week. So that is where things stand in February 2026. Tom Bower has made major claims before.
He said that they've made him feel part of the family, even though they haven't known him for so long. And I think that that's an extremely moving, wonderful thing for a man who had a very difficult upbringing, and that he felt that he could be part of his girlfriend's then family. And he's enjoyed them ever since. That's why they go away together, and that's why they spend a lot of time together.
Revenge 2 is reportedly coming. Questions around the marriage continue to swirl, and the full story may still be unfolding. If even part of what is being suggested is true, the next chapter could be explosive. What do you think? Is Tom Bower seeing something others missed, or is this all being overread? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to hear where you stand. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, share this video, and turn on notifications so you do not miss what comes next, because this story may be far from over.